Um, all right. I think that started it, right? Did it?
Yeah, it started about
Okay.
5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thought yeah, I'm not an expert in this piece here. So, okay, there it is. Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. I've got Sandra actually had a couple of really great suggestions for like just quick intro slides, which I'll do. And I want to emphasize this is really a lot, just for discussion and uh, about what we've seen. KCPA, we're all volunteer group. We're not the experts in, um, knowing what's going on in the definitions or the materials. We've asked some questions and gotten some answers. If we've gotten those, we can kind of regurgitate that. But if there's any specifics that are needed, I'll make sure I've got the contact information shared out for the county's team, which is spearheading the effort. So, hey, I see Sandra just popping up on video, and let's see, is my screen sharing
Yeah.
up the correct one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I will.
okay, yeah, yeah. So this is just an opportunity, to discuss and ask questions. We're not going to review the material um, that has been online and on the virtual meeting. But just a quick backgrounder. So we've had the Advanced Knox initiative underway. The first phase, I think that was 2022 to through 2024. I can't quite remember. Um, but there was a lot of collection of data, facts, trends, community input, and that identified desires, visions, and goals. And out of that, we got a new growth plan and new growth plan map. We got a brand new comprehensive land use and transportation plan, which replaced our county's old general plan and a bunch of sector plans. And in that, we got a future land use map. Um, so that was really setting, overall vision for the county and, you know, begin to design and define what we want it to look like over the next 20 years. Um, and so that was fully adopted in 2024, or 23. I can't, it's all it all runs together. But since then, we're now at the next phase, which is dealing with the kind of the current problem. Um, so we've got a new vision and everything, but what we don't have is an updated set of development regulations. In particular, the zoning ordinance. The planning group has things back from the 1950s on their website and does a really great job of, some of the definitions in there are from the 1950s. So it's pretty old. It's all of that. If it was ever based off vision and goals, is from old vision and goals. We've got new ones, and then it's finally spread across multiple documents that are difficult to follow and really lengthy. So um, the objective that the process that's underway now is to put together a unified development ordinance, or UDO, and that's the term you'll hear used, which combines a lot of different documents and regulations, particularly the zoning ordinance, stormwater regulations, subdivision regulations, and then I think there's some other stuff. It'll be it's guided very much by the new vision and policies and goals of the comprehensive land use plan. And it's going to remove a lot of inconsistencies too. And frankly, incorporate a lot that's been learned about zoning and land use and how to write better ordinances since the 1960s. Sandra, have I covered this okay? So,
Yes, I would only add, if I may, one thing, an emphasis on incorporate what has been learned since the 1960s. There's just a lot of current advancement in understanding planning and the demand for affordable housing and diversity just in the last 3 to 5 years. So there's just a lot of new stuff out there that we would be turning our backs to if we didn't go through an update like the Orion Consulting Company is working on.
yes. Yep. So want to be really clear here too. So we're in a feedback phase right now on what they call Module A, which is dealing with uses and definitions. Um, there are, and I can put these slides up afterwards and also send them out, but there is a online survey for Module A, which I can kind of briefly preview, but that's the very much a preferred way to provide some feedback. There's also on the UDO website, there's a submit a comment web form there. And then finally, you can email the contact@advancedknox.org email address. That is a way, if you have comments that like have an attachment that you need to submit, web form doesn't do attachments, but you can get attachments done that way and they will get your comment posted. They'll handle that in the back end. So it'll show up on the public page. Also, if you've got questions or concerns, that you want to take to the project team, that's the email address to use. And they're pretty good and pretty speedy about getting back. So they've got that out there.
So, I'm sorry, Kevin, back to the comment slide. If you go back one to the previous slide, I didn't understand. No, the one where we're talking about comments. What is the why would I choose comment web form over contact advanced Knox? Can you tell me
I
with fewer words?
I I would say that that is the website that's out there. They've got a web form, and that's what is kind of structured the data. I think they probably have to do manual work if you email them to contact@advancedknox.org. That's my guess. But more importantly, if you've got a question about the materials, if you're like, "What does this say?" or "I need help with this" or something, that's a way to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have a quick beef, and I just don't know if I should go to the web form so everyone can hear it, or if I should go through a contact advanced Knox, and that is just the sort of the structure, some of the public outreach. What would be the best avenue for
I
me?
I don't know, and that I would send that email to contact@advancedknox.org and ask them exactly that.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. So on there, and I went really fast there. So just so because uh, yeah, so advancedknox.org, the main website page takes you to this page. You want to click the big green on the bottom right is your key. Follow the green. That takes you to the Unified Development Ordinance. They've got information on the homepage here, but you know, key tabs right now that you're really interested in are uh, so we're talking about the web form that's under participate. That's there all the time where you can submit comments through the web form. You can view comments. Um, and they tell you when you submit a comment too, it structures it, but if you're having trouble to email them as well. So yeah, so you use the web form if as the first way. But then under the feedback tab, this is really important too. So this feedback tab is kind of for us to participate right now in this current phase. They've got all the information here. The take the survey button is right here at the top. They've also got the meeting materials, the recording is there, the presentation slides are there that they did. And I saw, I think it was yesterday or today, they posted up a Q&A from that meeting. So folks that asked questions in the chat, they've got the answers there. Yeah. And I'd put in a comment or suggestion, and they did make I think a really nice improvement today. Let me know about it. The community survey. Um, Now, besides asking you for, it'll ask you to look at the zoning district, look at the related place type, and give it kind of a ranking of 1 to 5 about how well it fits. But there's also for each zoning district, there's now a free form response where you can talk about why you gave it that ranking or feedback about that zoning district or things like that. So I think the team did a great job getting that added there. All right, well, that's really it in terms of, I don't want to present because the project team has done most of that. I have all the materials up that I can share, like, that are that have the presentation they had, the place types, the uses, definitions, the proposed districts. We've got all that. I guess it's really, I've just wanted to have this, as a kind of a general discussion for. I'll stop sharing. I'll share again, but just if there's any thoughts that people are having, having looked at the materials, areas where they're trying to figure out how to engage. We can offer some advice, but also direct you to, get in touch with the county. They do have a timeline, and that's something. That's the last thing. Let me reshare that screen because I'll bring that up. They've county on the main page for the UDO. They have got some information here about the timeline. So right now we're doing Module A, which is regulations and stuff, and feedback is due on Tuesday, February 10th. Later in February, it looks like there'll be information on released on development standards. And then in March, there's going to be information on landscaping, signs, and stormwater regulations. So that'll be some time to engage there. They also have the timeline under the About tab. There's a time, you've got who's involved, where who's involved, you can see, there's a technical advisory committee. And those are people that are kind of, subject matter experts, that are using the regulations a lot. And then there's a community advisory committee of people, like a lot of us that are out there as well. And then they're using Orion Planning and Design as a consultant team that's kind of leading the process there. But they've also got here, very important, a project timeline, and so they show us where we are. We're currently in February. They held the meetings in January. They're taking feedback, but in February they've proposed that they'll have those technical and community advisory committee meetings again. They'll do another virtual public meeting on development standards. Same thing in March on landscaping signs and stormwater regulations. April is going to be building and fire codes, which is probably a little bit more up in the sleeves there. So they've got the advisory committees meeting, but not a public meeting. Very important to know this is on a time frame. They are planning in May, I believe, to release the draft, the full draft document that pulls everything together. They're doing this in modules. My understanding is that because it's a little easier to digest than just trying to release a great big draft. And personally, I do appreciate that. But in May, there's going to be virtual and in-person public meetings. And then in June, they start the adoption process, which time frame I've heard is June is Planning Commission, and really hoping to get it through Planning Commission in June. And then has to go in front of County Commission for 2 readings since it's a zoning ordinance. And that would be July and August. And obviously, this is really, there's a strong desire for the current administration and elected office holders to be able to, since they've been involved with advanced Knox and the process from that point, there'll be some new office holders in starting on September 1st, so they'd like to get it adopted by the end of August. The project team is, from what I've seen, they've done a really good job of tracking to their timeline. So I think it behooves us and the public to make sure when there is a feedback and engagement that we are in there, we're engaged and we're participating now. I don't think that if we're not engaged now and we're trying to wait till somebody's waiting until June or July, the train's probably going to be running pretty fast.
One module that they don't identify, which I think is crucial, is administration in the sense of the decision criteria, the process of the Planning Commission and County Commission evaluating the applications before them and the responsibilities. For example, earlier or later last year, the county commissioner was getting a little frustrated about rezone application, not rezone, special preliminary, what is that, plan development not coming to them. So and then I'm not real happy with some of the current decision criteria. I feel, for instance, a change in circumstances is entirely too vague. I can give vague examples, but I don't need to.
Mm.
So I really am a little curious, trying to find a nice word, to find out when the public gets to look at the process. When is the module on the administration and the procedure provided to the public?
That's a great question. I think we should ask that in as a question to the team through their contact advance Knox email address. So I've taken some notes there, but that's a question that anybody can ask. So I do ask that this is a large call. If you see something that you're interested in, please send that out. Yeah. Yep. I think that's a great question.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Sandra.
And I keep talking. I don't want to talk too much, but I am a talker. The other thing is that I have been working with several other organizations, primarily environmental. And when I look at their mission statements and their goals, and then I look at the complication and the layers involved in this unified development ordinance, I understand that it's really frustrating, and if you can understand it, and confusing to make sure that what your organization is interested in and values is actually reflected in the revised regulations. To put it more simply, can we make sure that the vision and goal statements found in the land use and transportation code, our comprehensive plan, can we make sure that they actually are implemented through the regulations using the filter of whichever organization is desiring? And I just don't know how to go about doing that, but I think that's where the different organizations are especially effective. And I'm trying to work on how to do that, because it comes in chunks, and I understand the chunks. I mean, I understand you got to start from the place types and the zone designations and work your way down. But let's not lose track of what our individual goals are in our organizations and not get befuddled by other stuff. That's all I had to say.
Mm. Alex,
except I'm trying to help.
Yeah. Alex, saw you got your hand raised.
Yeah. You've probably taken a deeper dive into all of this stuff than any of the rest of us have. So, maybe you can answer this. I find it very easy to get lost in the weeds when I'm looking at the different zoning designations and place types and yada, yada, yada. And these are all going to be supposed to be based on the comprehensive land use and transportation plan. And I guess my question is, because I've got some issues with that plan, is the team likely to be responsive to comments or questions going back to the plan and the land use map that was presumably developed out of it? Because I've never seen what criteria they used to create that map, and that bothers me.
Yeah, I can't speak for the team. I do know this is really trying to implement that plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you what though, I do think you can absolutely say, as we're looking at this, sometimes now we're down at the next level, we can say, well, this, trying to implement this zoning, in this, in this area is really, cutting across the current of what the land use plan is trying to do, what we're trying to do with our policy and goals there. So I think this will actually offer an opportunity to have some specific examples that we can raise up and say, oh, the land use plan and what we're trying to do there, and had policy was kind of right and the goal was kind of right, but it's not following through in the zoning and the regulation. And here's a place, in the county that I can point to that says, your proposed zone is, going to do this or that and have these regulations associated with it. And, it's got a, sensitive environmental feature or wetland or something. And you can say, that's, you know, this is I think those examples will actually be very helpful for team and consultants to be able to make tweaks now and and over the next few months. So you probably don't have enough detail right now for some of those things you're thinking of, is my guess. But I think that's where we can be really instructive and make sure we provide that feedback and say, I'm looking at this area or this parcel or this thing, and that's, I don't see the land use plan, it had a goal to do something, and I don't see the land use plan and then these proposed zoning regulations or stormwater, whatever. I don't see it helping that. Those specific examples can be really, really good.
Okay, thank you.
Specific examples are really good, and I think that if we take the vision and goal statements, if we look at the intention and then how it's applied through the regulations, then the example of the land with the wetlands really supports our desire that those visions are correctly implemented. What I'd like to do, or what I'd like to talk about us doing, is to ask the staff and the consultant, as they go through the process, to point out where they are adhering and implementing the vision statements, which are supposed to be the foundation of the whole project.
Yeah, I'm used in when I deal with IT architecture and requirements and implementation and stuff. I'm used to it's it's a traceability matrix is what it's called, and I feel like what I've seen and heard from the consulting team is that they are doing some of that traceability um, from the top, from the place types and the top level plan. They're trying to do that when they are looking at the zoning districts and the proposed uses and their definitions, that they are doing some traceability there. It'd be really, it could be really helpful and instructive to, I think they're doing that, and that probably, I bet that exists somewhere. It's full just speculation, but I think they are very much, they've looked at the land use plan and they're trying to do that. But I think it's great if we ask them, hey, could you share that with us? Like, are you keeping, on your, probably, and maybe there's a big Excel spreadsheet or something, but, they've got all the different goals and policies of the land use plan. And then they're tracking like, we're doing this, with this regulation or this zone or something. I think that traceability matrix could be really helpful. And that, Sandra, I think goes back to where you said, organizations need to be paying attention. Well, an organization looks at, takes it upon themselves to look at the land use plan and the policies and the goals and say, these are the goals and policies I really care about. That's then, they can be looking and say, okay, so, now somebody's told me that, policy 3, goal 2, B, that's one I care about. And they've said, this is the regulation we've got that's implementing that. And you can say, well, that looks pretty good. Or you can say, oh, we need to do a little bit more there.
I really like that. I'm so sorry, Joe. Just what you suggested would be the bridge that I was trying to find between the vision goals and the actual regulations so that an organization can follow it and understand it. So let's ask for that.
Yeah.
So my first reaction to Axel's question was no, because that's already a done deal and they're not going to change that. But then I started thinking, and I can't remember exactly what, but it seems to me in this last round of meetings, they did change some definitions. And what they said was they thought that the new definitions or categories, whatever it was, and I can't remember, fit the goals of the comprehensive land use and transportation plan better. So Axel, maybe they are amenable to making changes. I mean, it's a little bit complicated because that's already been passed by county commission. So, but I guess it all goes before county commission again,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they will be voting on the whole thing again. So any changes, they're just voting to affect the changes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's worth, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Anything like this, ultimately rests on county commission. And county commission can make decisions one day and they can come back the next meeting they have and change it if they want.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I do think these the specific examples really help. And if there are
Mhm.
things where I don't think we're going to see a revised update to the comprehensive plan come out of happen at the same time this UDO is going through. I think you know that's moving too many pieces of the airplane, building it at once. But if there are things that we really notice in the comprehensive in the land use plan, and those just keep coming up in as we're looking at the zoning ordinance being implemented. That's feedback that I'd send to the team and make, and get into the record as well and make sure that that's, and talk to a couple of county commissioners and make sure it's on their radar screen because I think, they've lived with the comprehensive land use plan for a year and a half, I think, 2 years, something like that. And it does call for doing, some updates on a 5 and 10 year and 15 and 20 year cycle. So there are, and even some minor stuff, every year. But so I think we build up a little bit of a backlog of, suggestions. Yeah, that's not at all out of bounds. And when we're writing the zoning ordinance and we're looking at it, and especially when we look at those specific examples, I think that that was one of the really hard things when we were doing the big high level plan was didn't know how it would go, get applied specifically. Now we're dealing with those specifics, and that can be really, really helpful. I My experience, Joyce was saying, with the team, with the consultants, and with the county staff, has been that they are very receptive right now to feedback, especially since we're early in the process. So they are very much, listening. And if we've got some good things to, some example, the consultants in particular are really, since a number of them aren't from this area, if we can give them an example and send them, where it is on the map and stuff and kind of explain it for them, that lets them unlock their own professional knowledge and experience and they can say, oh, okay, I get the problem they're talking about and maybe they can suggest a solution.
If you go back to the schedule with the modules, because I wanted to point out the timing.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, if we look at this, the actual development regulations are this month. I don't know what they mean by development standards, but I think this gives us time to really implement some of the ideas that we're talking about now, about looking for examples, for example, and asking to get what was that kind of traceability?
Traceability matrix.
Yeah, matrix. I mean, we have time,
Mhm.
precious time, especially for nonprofit community organizations. I mean, 3 months can whiz by and get
Mhm.
everyone working together, but we really need to focus on it because this, as Kevin said, is the best effective time we have to make long-lasting change in the way that we're being developed. So February is a hot month.
Yep. February, March, and May in particular. So if you're thinking about your organizational planning, we've got some here in February, some in March. Uh, Signs, I know of at least one organization in Knoxville that will be very tuned in for that, as well as landscaping. Stormwater regulation is also something that affects all of us, and environmental specifically too. So February and March, there's a lot of feedback opportunity here. And then May is huge. May, there'll be, there'll be a workshop that we can sit in and listen to at Planning Commission, and there'll be in-person meetings, and there'll be more feedback. May is really critical. You're gonna have to. I mean, we might get a pretty big document that need to go through. So block off some time in mid-May for that. Yeah. Oh, I thought there's my stop share the screen. Yeah. All right. Any other questions, comments?
Sorry. Are you going to take the notes and share them with the group, or what
Yeah, I
happens
mean,
with the
I've only got a
notes?
couple of notes there, which is really around the question about the zoning module, criteria, responsibilities. That's pretty, helpful. The one about the traceability matrix, that's a question. I don't mind sending those in. I'm totally overloaded right now. If others have time to send those in as comments and questions, I'd really appreciate that. Um, and then I really implore everybody to not only take the survey, but send in comments through the web form, ask questions through the email, you know, s- uh, about this. There, it looks, like, I've been talking with some of the folks in the ag community, and we're looking at, some of the uses that are there. And, so the ag community's got some feedback that, I think individuals and organizations are formulating now to try and make sure they get that in there about ag and about rural, stuff. Things like, well, we've got a definition of agriculture, but what's our definition of agriculture that's allowed in residential areas? How many chickens can you have, at your house? How many goats can you have? Things like that. So they're trying to, some of those we don't necessarily have, we don't have the uses for every zoning district figured out, but we're trying to raise those questions right now so that as they're writing that, it comes back. So even if you got something that's not on the particular module that doesn't fit like neatly in that survey, send it in still as a comment so the team's got that and can start thinking of it.
The reason I asked Kevin is that I'd like to try, I don't know what this Kevin note taker does, but I'd like to get um, not a transcript, but basically what we've said, uh, put it in a better form and send it out to the organizations that weren't able to attend tonight so that they can get perhaps an understanding
Yeah.
of
Okay.
concerns and just a little brief overview of the background.
Yeah.
I'd like to take what we've done and kind of summarize it and send it out to other groups
Okay.
if I can.
I see Kent has got Otter.ai, probably transcribing, and then Jeff's got a Fireflies AI that might do some summarization. And I can post up the recording too. So
Yeah, if you could send
Okay.
me whatever. I'm kind of a
Well, I
klutz when
don't.
it comes
I,
to
I have a
technical.
recording. I don't have other folks who've got their AI chat stuff listening. So you have to talk to Kent or Jeff.
Hi,
I came
Jeff.
in late.
Yeah.
I'll send
Hi.
it to you, Sandra.
Kent said he'll send it to you, Sandra.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah.
Kent.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and